On those regulations, I sat down with Bill Becker of the National Association of Clean Air Agencies. I began by asking him about the timing of the new air quality standards.
It did not come as a surprise. EPA was under court order to do this, and it calls for the Environmental Protection Agency to strengthen the smog standard so that everyone around the country, every person who lives in the United States, would know whether the air they breathe is safe. Today's standard at 75 parts per billion is a national standard, but is not protective of public health. And so there are many people, there are millions of people in this country who are breathing air they think is safe, but it isn't. And what the scientists who advise the administrator of EPA tell her almost unanimously is that this standard needs to be strengthened.
A lot of U.S. businesses don't like this at all. In fact, they're calling it the costliest regulation ever. Plus, they say it would devastate the U.S. economy. Your thoughts?
This is the old and tired playbook that they've used for the past 30 years when EPA has come out with a regulation. The fact of the matter is, not 1 ounce of pollution will be removed from these facilities who complain for a decade or more. So when it comes time to regulate those facilities, states can guarantee that they will impose cost-effective measures, technologically feasible measures, ones that have been implemented elsewhere. This is hyperbole at its best.
House Speaker Boehner sent out a tweet slamming this proposal, again saying it would cost families $1,500 a year. Is this going to cost American families $1,500 a year?
No, and I do not get the rhetoric that is associated with this rule. Let's take a step back and kind of review the bidding. The Congress, many of whom are still in Congress.
And by the way, this does not need congressional approval, does it?
Correct. The Congress passed the Clean Air Act years ago. In the Clean Air Act, they required EPA to do exactly what they're doing today. They required EPA to look every 5 years at the standard to determine whether or not it should be strengthened. The Congress said you can take costs into consideration when states implement the program, but you can't take costs into consideration when defining whether the air is clean or not. So the EPA administrator has followed the law, she has followed the science, the recommendations, she has done exactly what the Congress has expected of her, and they're still complaining, and that's not fair.
So the political battle here, you're saying, is expected with everything in Washington, and the debate becomes over what we're breathing, over the financial aspect of it, which many Republicans say they have a problem with that.
Yes, and let's home in on that. Let's create an example here. EPA is suggesting that to comply with this rule, and it's speculative because we don't know what the future is going to bring, but to comply with this rule on a national basis is going to cost $3 to $4 billion. They're also estimating that the benefits of implementing this rule are going to be not $3 billion, but $13 billion. The benefits far exceed the costs. And why is that? Because people are dying from current exposure to smog. Many hundreds of thousands and millions are getting sick. There is scarring of the lungs. There are respiratory problems. As a result, the elderly, children, asthmatics are all affected. It adversely affects worker productivity. People stay home, they're sick. They go to the hospital more. Healthcare costs will rise through the roof if we do nothing. So the issue isn't whether this program is going to impose additional costs on industry. The issue is what happens if we do nothing? How does that affect our society's economic structure?